And so here we are, finally in Act 3 of Arcane, which ended with quite a bang, literally. Out of all the acts, Act 3 might have the most details, but that's because there are a lot of things that were left open, and so we are free to speculate. But we won't be doing that too much in this video, because I still plan to talk about all the possible storylines that may happen in Season 2. So today I will try to focus on all the details that can be easily confirmed, but be ready because when it comes to Mel, there will be some speculations. But now, without further ado, let's have a look at all the Easter eggs which we can find in Arcane's Act 3. Starting with Episode 7. The rat-like Vastaya is the same race as the artificer found in Piltover in a previous episode. When Echo is revealed, you can hear his original theme in the background. The case for the Hextech gem is likely what will be eventually turned into Echo's Z-Drive. When Vi asked him if he just comes out swinging at everyone, he replied, "Gee, I wonder who I learned that from." This is a reference to Episode 1, when Echo was showing Clagger all the moves Vi taught him. When Echo asked how long had she had the cuffs off, she replied, "How long have you been whining?" The last time they saw each other, Echo cried after they took Vander away and the two hugged exactly like this. Later, when Singe tells Victor that Shimmer can help people survive violent transitions, you can see the purple color reflecting in his eyes, just like it happened to Jinx before. Singed also revealed he parted ways with Heimerdinger, revealing that the majority of Singe's lore actually stayed intact. It is still very much possible that in the past he was a professor from Piltover. During Mel's scene with Jace, you can see that Mel doesn't seem to be acting. It is possible that now she really has feelings for him, and that she doesn't use him as a tool anymore. In Silco's office, Savika is drinking the orange drink that Vander used to pour everyone. It will keep coming back throughout this act. During their conversation, we get a quick top-down view of the scene to show us that they are really alone, and that Jinx is not up there like she was before. Silco's ashtray was decorated by Jinx, strengthening the father and daughter relationship, which definitely didn't have any inappropriate tension during this series. When Silco told her that he's going out to find Jinx, Savika told him that she too had the same experience with her own father. Jinx would come to him when she was ready, revealing that Savika once ran away from her family, and once she had grown up, she came back. This might be a teaser for what's to come in Season 2. When Jinx returns to her cave, her workbench is covered with mechanical butterflies from the Progress Day. Remember, during Act 2, she disassembled these to recreate Jace's Hextech device. But, in a moment, you'll learn there might be another reason why these are here. During her psychopathic scene, we can see the hole in the mirror lining up with her eye, pointing at her entire story arc. This happens multiple times. Anyway, she's fixing her leg with a stapler. When she fingershoots the Firelight bug, she's foreshadowing her battle with Echo later on. She's also foreshadowing the exploding firelights on the bridge, which might explain why she had so many of those butterflies on her desk. At the Firelight Wall of Memories, we can see a plushie toy of Vander, as well as characters I believe we have not seen before. They may be some internal references. Then we got to see the rest. We know that Vi and Jinx are there because they thought they died, but the one that is being painted there right now is the girl Jinx shot, the one she thought was Vi. And the one who's painting it is the bird-masked woman from the previous episode. When we get a close-up of Jinx, you can hear her crazy theme in the background. The scene with Victor on the bridge has some really cool details you can only notice after watching it for the second time. You can see he's constantly inspecting the handle of his walking cane. When Jace asked Victor if his friend from the Undercity was able to help him, Victor replied no, and the shot goes back to the handle. Remember these scenes, they will become cool in just a moment. When Silco attends the Camp Baron meeting, you can see they are riding an elevator high above Zone. So even though the Camp Barons are technically in Zone, that's why they are not used to the polluted air. Also, on this building you can see 5 symbols. These likely correlate to the 5 Camp Barons, with the S above being Silco. Thanks to Caitlin's investigations in League's client, we know the names of most of these. These are Rennie, Smeech, Finn, and Kroos. The name of the woman is unknown to us. but based on her appearance, and based on the fact that all the other camp barons have double letters in their names, this could actually be Baroness Voss, the one who tortures people in the mines, and the one who creates ergot later on. In this shot, notice how the entire room is blooming. This is not a reference to Corina Veraza. This is to show us that the camp barons are enjoying the fresh smells of the flora. Before Silco lets loose the zoonite polluted air, you can see the ventilation stop. To show his power, you can also see that he is the only one who doesn't need a mask to breathe it. Baron Kroos comes from Piltover. That's why his suit is fancier than the rest. Smeech is a Yordle, and since, as far as we know, tall Yordles don't exist, he is actually tiny, just like the rest, so he should have extended augmented arms and legs. Finn has a tattoo of a hyena. This sets up his entire character. When the meeting is done, you can see the flowers in the back withered. The boy who offers Caitlyn the water is the same one we saw outside before. When Silco is in his office alone, he hesitates before jabbing his eye with Shimmer. That's because he's not used to doing it himself. Jinx usually did it for him. As Jinx stabs him around with his eye device, even though the show doesn't show us where she jabbed him, the animators still left the marks on his face as a cool detail. Also, Silco told Jinx that she has to complete her Hextech weapon, foreshadowing the very end of Season 1. Echo told Caitlyn that the enforcers are hunting them down like animals, and Silco is paying them to do it. Caitlyn says he's wrong, and the show then quickly brushes off the conversation. In reality, Echo was right, and he likely knew that Marcus and Silco had a deal because he's such a good spy. During this next scene, while everyone was focused on the fact that we got a height reference for Vi and Caitlyn, I noticed a Teemo toy in the background. Interestingly enough, even though Jinx's bombs always explode with shimmer-like pink, this bomb has orange and green liquids in it, both of which are the exact opposites of pink. When Victor cuts the wire, the two colors combine into yellow, just like they should. Finally, when we get to Victor's experimentation, he reveals the handle of his cane was hiding shimmer. That's why he was constantly checking it in the previous scenes. You can also see he is carving the same runes onto his leg, which you can find on the hex core. And funnily enough, someone in the community noticed that these runes correlate to the runes we have in League. These are Domination, Precision, Resolve, and Sorcery. The Inspiration rune is missing. When Echo is leaving the Oasis, you can see the Farlight bugs leaving with him, but we don't know if they are linked to what happens on the bridge. On Jace's drawing, you can see the same runes, which the mage emitted during his flashback. During Victor's transmutation, you can see the corruption in his veins even before the hex core affected him. This is simply what the purple shimmer-affected veins look like on the inside. On the bridge, Echo doesn't want to show Marcus the gem because he likely knows he's connected to Silco. That's why he swears. Marcus clearly doesn't want to shoot Caitlyn, but he has to for the safety of his daughter. When the butterflies prime for detonation, you can actually see the ignition arc travel down the head. It is actually unclear whether these mechanical firelights were sent in as a safety mechanism after Echo was shot, or if it was Jinx who released them after she saw Caitlyn and Vi. Remember the workbench. Jinx was working on these butterflies before. So even though the green and pink colors actually point at the firelights themselves, these are more likely Jinx's creation. There will be a single sentence later on that might be confirming it. When Jinx arrives on the bridge, she is singing the song about the river Pilt from the very first scene of the series. She also shot one of the wardens, just like a warden shot one of the Zonites. When Echo returns, you can once again hear his theme from League. During Echo's battle with Jinx, you can see the Firelight bug behind him during the flashbacks. You can see a crow behind Jinx. We'll get to the entire crow imagery at the end, but you can also notice that she's holding the toy gun from the Bilgewaterian shooting range. During the fight, in the flashback, Echo was shot because he simply jumped to dodge the bullet. In the present fight, he did a flip, which saved him. This is showing us how Echo grew up. After the battle is over, the bridge visually references the massacre from the first episode. And then, Echo's clock stopped ticking. And this takes us to episode 8. During Mel's flashback, you can see that her clothing looks suspiciously Solari. She herself looks Shuriman, but apparently she comes from Noxus. We know that a lot of Noxians are brought into the Empire from other regions. So, since the map shows us a region in Shurima that is closer to Targon that's controlled by Noxus, it is entirely possible all of this is teasing that's where Mel is really from. Even as a child, you can see she's already wearing the ring of her Noxian family. She also mentions Kino, her brother. Later, in the present days, she learns about his death. Unfortunately, we don't really know who the enemy girl is. But Mel's mother said that she was a symbol of the old regime. If the old regime was Borem Darkwill, she could be talking about Swain recently claiming the throne of Noxus. So by now, it is possible that the Noxian invasion would already be over. But that's all just a theory for now. I assume that will appear in Season 2. If you look around the entire place, it looks either Shuriman or Ionian. So who knows? Maybe the invasion of Ionia was happening during this scene. Mel had such a trauma from this girl's death, she painted a picture of it from memory. Even though normally her father is the passionate one about hunting, when it comes to the safety of her daughter, it was Caitlyn's mother who picked up the rifle. Back in Singed's lab, you can briefly see him ripping off bandages from his face. They are bloodied. Of course, according to the core universe, Singed was wearing bandages on his face because he was scarred by Warwick during his creation. This is foreshadowing a major teaser that comes at the end. You can see he's wearing the scarf to hide the bandages beneath. Before Silco passes away, Singed told him he too once had a daughter. Once again, this teases what comes at the end. The next time Savika is on screen, you can see she is once again drinking Vander's orange drink. This time she is finishing the bottle. She also reveals her new upgrade, a blade. This comes in later when she gets a battle of her own. Finn also has a lighter with his F on it. When Mel's mother arrives, it is revealed that the star symbol indeed belongs to the Noxian family. And since her mother is also called Medarda, it was finally confirmed that the Medarda clan was not founded in Piltover, but it actually originates from Noxus. Medarda are a Noxian family. That explains why the clan in Piltover is using crimson red for its colors. Of course, in later stories which you can find on Universe, we learn about Noxians trying to infiltrate the Medarda clan, so at some point in the future, the Medarda clan will try to cut itself loose from its Noxian family. This might be a coincidence, but the pretty boy who came for her mother has a similar face to the one wearing the wolf mask in the brothel. But more than that, he has the exact same haircut down to the strands of hair. So either this is the same person, or the animators just reused the model. When Vi remembers her childhood with Jinx, she talks about the monsters she and Jinx made up when they were kids. One was a slug monster with venom for ooze, the other one was a slug-eating crab with razor spikes. If you go back to episode 6, you can find drawings of these on the wall in their former home. During Jinx's surgery, you can see Singed's scarred face covered only by the bandages. Also, this. When Heimerdinger ventures into the streets, you can see the sniffing addict from the last drop. Even though Heimerdinger is a brilliant engineer, remember he's also a Yordle. He likely summoned the Spinitop using his magic. You may recognize this scenery from the recent Project L teasers. During a council meeting, Jace is holding the wings of the butterflies. This is the one he found still moving on the bridge earlier. During that meeting, the name Zone is mentioned for the first time up there. That's because, up until now, the entire city was simply known as Piltover. It gets officially separated a bit later on. After the council meeting fails, and Vi marches out, Caitlyn's mother understands that her daughter is in a relationship with her, and so she nods at her to go after her. Oil and Water, the name of the episode. Victor's scene after that is quite magical, all puns intended. You can see him running faster than the sailing ships behind him. This is a reference to his flashback, where he couldn't keep up with the toy boat. As Victor lets his blood link to the hex core more and more, you can see it becomes more and more flesh-like. This makes sense because as Victor pumps his body with shimmer, the void-like corruption is drawn out through his blood and absorbed by the core, leaving Victor with magical abilities, while making the core attuned to him. Eventually he runs out of shimmer, so he is forced to try to attune to the core without its help. That's why the next time he tries it, the magic is so unstable. Also, you can see that he covered his torso with runes. So just like previously, the core transformed his leg after he did the exact same thing. If he had shimmer, his body would have transformed as well. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and the name Powder got a whole new meaning. At the end you can see just how much more void-like the core became. When Vi visits Jace's workshop, you can see he is assembling the handle of his future hammer. When she picks up the Atlas gauntlets, for the first time her eyes reflect blue. This is because she finally fulfilled her character. This is how we know Vi. Up until this moment, throughout the entire series, her eyes were always grey. The Gragas barrels are back. Also, they knew where the Shimmer factory was, because now they were able to look through Marcus's files. They quickly mentioned that during the council meeting. The boy who started the alarm might have been Rennie's son. In Caitlin's files, you can read about this facility. Apparently, they experimented on kids, and they pumped them with something green to see if they can adapt to the turbo chem tanks. That's why you can see children here. Speaking of which, these are turbo chem tanks. Also, Baroness Rennie is supposed to have her own special turbo chem tank. That might be a teaser for Season 2. I know it's not a detail, but goddamn, the fights in this series are so good. During these fights, Vi sometimes propels herself by extending the fist. This is a reference to her E ability, just like Jace's electric field and his cannon. And yes, Jace also shoots Rennie's son, making him realize that hextech weapons are actually dangerous. During a wide shot of the factory, you can see that shimmer is being pumped out of something living that's moving. Once again, more references to the void. When the shot goes to the workers, most of them are indeed kids. And of course, the episode ends with Jinx ambushing Caitlyn. In case you didn't notice, it is really easy to miss it, but you can actually see Jinx on the bottom right in the background. And this takes us to episode 9, the grand finale. At the beginning, after Vi destroyed the Shimmer Pumper, Silco mentions that the late sheriff had his uses. Of course, he's talking about Marcus. Savika replied, "Too bad Jinx didn't think so," revealing that maybe, indeed, the butterflies were Jinx's creation. Then it is revealed that the boy was indeed Rennie's son. And the reason why it might be important to mention that Rennie has her own special chem tank is because she would now want to take revenge on Jace. So maybe in Season 2, we might see Rennie versus Jace. When the shot zooms out, you can see that the living void-like being at the top died. Back during Victor's scene, in Sky's diary, you can see she did her own research on the plants and are linked to the hex core. She simply wanted to help him. Victor then tries to destroy the core, but since the core is like a living being now, because remember, it is adaptive, it whispered to him. And so maybe he didn't destroy it just because he didn't want to destroy his own work. Maybe the core didn't allow him. When he tried to leave, since the core was already attuned to him, it was able to short-circuit him. When Mel talks to her mother about the future of Medarda, when her mother tells her to come back with her, you can symbolically see the painting of Noxus behind them. Victor now wears a glove to hide his transformed hand, although you can still just about see the transformation beneath it. When he decides to jump, Jace stops him by asking, "Am I interrupting?" The same question Victor asked him when Jace wanted to jump. When the two meet, they met for the first time after each one of them accidentally killed an innocent person. Victor then asked Jace to destroy the hex core, because he wouldn't be able to do it himself. It is whispering to him. In that scene, they are both on equal grounds. They wanted to create something good, but failed at doing so. Back in Silco's office, Silco is now drinking Vander's orange drink. During this private meeting with Finn and Ranni, Savika uses her blade upgrade for the first time. The first time we saw her getting the upgrade was during her initial talk with Finn. On his table, Silco has a letter signed by Jace, revealing it was Jace who called for their own private meeting. While discussing the terms of peace between the two halves, they symbolically held the conversation at a place meant for defending the city from the outsiders. When Echo returns home, based on the clothing, you can tell that this is the gorilla masked man and this is the bird masked woman. Silco's scene at Vander's statue reflects upon their similarities. They both wanted only the best for their own people, and in the end, neither of them were ready to sacrifice their daughter figures. Vander died because he wouldn't let Vi be taken by the enforcers, and Silco wasn't willing to do the same with Jinx. During some of the close-ups here, you can see that some people signed Vander's statue. Of course, Jinx was with Silco, and Vi was in prison, so neither managed to sign the statue, but you can at least see Echo here. Back in the last drop, once again the shimmer-sniffing guy returned. The goon puts on a song called Chicnud, which translated from French means flick. The art is foreshadowing Vi's fight with Savika. When Savika orders everyone to get out, like a proper bartender, Theorem doesn't, and he just hides behind the bar. During the fight, Vi takes a triple shot of Vander's orange liquor. When Savika uses the shimmer-infused blade, Vi is surprised because, just like her, this was the first time we properly saw this weapon. For a brief moment, Vi hesitates as she's not sure how to handle it. When the blade gets fully fired up, you can see its voidy corruption. Savika didn't die in this scene, so she's ready to go for Season 2. After the fight, we can see that Blood Moon is happening. Besides the alternative universe skins, in the canon universe, Blood Moon is a real event that is celebrated in Ionia. For example, Udyr was born under a blood red moon. But of course, for the finale of this season, it serves to give us some hellish lighting, which we also got in the very first scene on the bridge. When Jace proclaims that they should name the Undercity Zone and give it its independence, Mel looks at her ring, remembering how her mother wanted her to get the city under control. This would be doing the exact opposite. During Jinx's final scenes, she made the celebration fireworks out of the Valdiani music box, which she found in the very first episode. Jinx's first line here is, "I thought I buried this place, but nothing ever stays dead." Not only is this referencing all the hallucinations which she had, but it's also because, in case you didn't notice, the final scene is happening in the storage house which Jinx blew up with the monkey, which turned Powder into Jinx. This is where we should mention the crows. Throughout the entire series they were always there. Surprisingly, a lot of people thought that this was Swain's demon spying on what's happening in Zaun. After all, Swain has some quotes against Jinx. I hate to burst that bubble, but these are crows, not ravens. So if you really want to theorize about another champion's involvement, you can still theorize that these are related to Fiddlesticks. Remember, he has a lot of lines about Jinx too. But more likely than that, on top of the creepy vibes, in fantasies, a crow is a symbol of transformation and adaptation. So in this case, a crow would symbolize Powder's change into Jinx. Anyway, during their makeshift Thanksgiving, Jinx really did bring in everyone. There is Milo, Clagger, Mr. Bunny, and Vander symbolized with his pipe and his metal fist. Also, you can see the family photo which was in the background during Act 1. And of course there are also Silco and Vi. Lastly, she brought in Caitlyn, who in her mind doesn't belong into their family. That's why she asked Vi to remove her. Also, you can see Jinx drew her a smile. One of the reasons for that could be because that's how Jinx sees her during her hallucinations. When Jinx is deciding where to sit, she's deciding between a chair titled Powder, surrounded by her crayons which she often used during Act 1, as well as her original inventions, and a chair titled Jinx, surrounded with bullets, a chomper, and crow feathers to represent her change. While this scene is happening, the music in the background is the bridge theme we heard during episode 1. When Vi tells her to remember her parents, you can see 3 demons. These likely represent her mother, father, and Vi. For a split of a second, Silco picked up the gun, which made Jinx's instincts kick in, and with Shimmer in her blood, she was able to shoot him before he shot Vi. All because she loved her sister more than anyone else. Before Silco dies, he tells Jinx that she's perfect. This is the line he told her during the scene in the water where Jinx was born. After he dies, the bags under Jinx's eyes get massive, showing how tired she is of all the constant trauma, and that she is the cause of everything. And finally, surrounded by bullets and another father which she managed to kill herself. After constantly screwing everything up, she chose to embrace that she is a Jinx. And at the end, she reveals Fishbones. To some, this may seem like a random reveal, but every single time Silco told her to utilize the Hextech gem and to focus working on her weapon, he was talking about Fishbones. This was the ultimate Hextech weapon Silco wanted her to make, and here we see it finished. Before she fires, you can hear Silco saying, "We'll show them all." This is what he told her the first time she hugged him. She fires at the High Council because moments ago, Silco said they could all burn. They wanted to take Jinx away. And so she did it to continue Silco's legacy. This was the way to show them all. Before the rocket hits, you can see Mel taking off her Medarda ring. She was ready to cut her family loose for the good of Piltover. Also, ironically, the rocket lands just as everyone agreed on peace, meaning that even now, Jinx screwed it up. During the final quick scenes, you can see that Savika survived. With Silco's chair left empty, the scene is suggesting that she will become the new leader of the last drop. She's also trying to use Finn's lighter. Heimerdinger decided to stay with Echo. The ticking clock in the front foreshadows the Z-Drive. Singed pulled out his locket, which shows that he actually has a daughter. I personally thought he was talking about Rio. Suspiciously enough, it does match Oriana, so theoretically, Singed can be her father. In the canon universe, her father was just a random side character who was making toys in his toy shop. Seeing that Singed was confirmed to have some history in Piltover, Riot can turn him into Oriana's father. And if that's the case, that means Riot foreshadowed Singed's former interest in making toys when he was impressed by Victor's toy boat. Of course, he then reveals Warwick. And since Warwick is in his final stage here, it also reveals that's why Singed had the bandages on his face. It wasn't because of the fire, it's because Warwick already scarred him behind the scenes. Rather unsurprisingly at this point, yes, it is extremely likely that Warwick is Vander. There is also a quick shot of Mel's mother seeing how Mel destroyed the painting of Noxus. There is a brief imagery of shooting for the moon, we then get a close-up of the rocket, and you can see that it is filled with orange and green liquids, exactly like the grenades before. The consistency is insane. And in the last moment, we can see the rocket is going to land on Mel. And when the rocket touches the glass, it flashes with the reflection of the rocket's smile. This is the same smile you see in-game when she lands her ultimate. And just to make sure we really get it, this also briefly flashes on screen. And these were all the details found in Act 3. As you can see, there are a lot more theories than I thought. But still, the details in this entire series were absolutely insane. It is incredible how consistent they got with these. However, I still didn't talk about a couple of interesting things. There were some shots from the trailers which didn't actually appear in the entire series. There are more things surrounding the future of the Medarda family. The Hex Core might be teasing a Void Champion. And there is a lot more behind Ranni as well. But we will talk about all of that in the next video, because I still want to talk about all the storylines that might be happening in Season 2. Remember how in Mel's introduction scene in episode 1, the Pharaoh's family was mentioned? Yeah, I think Camille might be in Season 2. But things like this is what we will talk about then. So for now, I really hope everyone enjoyed this massive series, because quite frankly, I myself have never worked this hard on this channel before. I really need sleep. But damn it, there are hidden details even in the Season 2 announcement.